Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Cranky speaking. Simon Kessler and Daryl Impey. We're discussing what we saw this last week of the Tour de France, and we're also looking ahead to the Vuelta and also what's in the future for today. Seems like he's a little tired after this last Tour de France. Really, his demeanor on that final stage, even though he was attacking and riding away there, was that was super exciting. But after the race, he definitely looked very tired, and it's just been announced that he will not be going to the Vuelta this year. Clearly, he needs some rest. He'll be focusing on the one day. So, Daryl, let's recap a little bit about the tour, what we've seen over this last week. Starting with, why don't we start with the final stage in Paris? What did you think about that? You've raced that stage many times, but never up Montmartre. What an epic stage! What a crazy stage in the rain, and with some of the big hitters of the sport going full gas to try win the day.
Yeah, I think it just highlights how important the Champs-Élysées is. I think any other race, any other Grand Tour stage that had those kinds of weather conditions and that kind of course, they would have cancelled that stage. And they would have said, okay, it's all, we'll see. There could be a winner or whatever, but yeah, you wouldn't have seen the likes of the yellow jersey, the big guns going for it. You would have seen like more the kamikaze kind of people going like, well, all the big guns are not going for the stage today, and I'm gonna have a try and win along the Champs-Élysées. But here you had like the best of the best, the creme de la creme, like trying to win the stage. That didn't matter to them what the course was like. It didn't matter. They were cobbles, slippery. They were going for it. To win on Paris Champs-Élysées, that's like I think every bike rider's dream. Um, that must be like such an awesome photo, such an awesome memory, and yeah, I think it was just great to see today. Just like he's got the tour sewn up, but he's like out there still trying to get more. That's like impressive. Like
Yeah.
knowing he could lose his jersey, knowing he could slip out on a corner, knowing he's got all these other risks there, and he's still willing to like go for it. That's a champion right there. That's a guy with like a guy who feels in control and a guy who's like got big balls. But um,
Yeah, that clearly shows his mentality, right? Like you see a guy who's really can sit up. The time was taken on the first passage, the race was over for the general, and yet he's willing to race and take the risks. It just shows the champion mindset that he has. You saw the other GC contenders playing it super safe, 10, 15 minutes back, just cruising in, and there he is on a super sketchy course, like on the cobbles in the rain in Paris. You can't get a slipperier road than that. And there he is, like battling it out, trying to win the final day, putting on an incredible show. That just shows the champion he is.
yeah, you know what? I'll recorrect myself there. I didn't know that nullified it. I might have missed that, but um, the thing is, like when you neutralize the race, that's also what happens when you see these big gaps. Like Paris is an awesome finish where you're used to seeing like a big bunch coming in and racing. Um, I still quite like that element of like having it come down to a bunch sprint compared to this year's finish. Like I love that there was a battle, but I kind of felt like there's been enough battles in the tour, and the last thing you want to do if you're one of those riders there that is not going to probably win the stage. If you're just happy to make it in Paris, you've survived the mountains. The last thing you feel like is the last day being like just so hard. you know, that's if I'm a bike rider again, I'd say like, oh, we didn't need that. I mean, for sure, for spectators, it was great, but I can imagine there's probably like 160 bike riders in that race going, I just want to see my wife or my girlfriend after. I want to be in one piece. I don't want to crash on the last day here and not finish in Paris. And I want to enjoy my evening and then like flick that mental switch and go, it's done. It's all over. So I think that's why you also saw like it just exploded and then it was like done and the time's done. So kind of um, it was a bit of a shame for the race. I think would have been nice if it was a dry day. But yeah, I think just that I love it how they just went for it. And then I equally I love it that Wout like just came back and he didn't win by like a sprint or whatever. He like put his head down. It was like the old Van Aert that we used to seeing. And then he was just like committing, right? He rode today off the wheel. And it was like just nice. Not because it's today, but it's just nice to see Wout like getting back up to his best and going like that confidence and going like, I still want more, you know?
Yeah, the way he rode off today, that you don't. I don't think I've ever, well, I probably have seen it, but I can't remember the last time I've seen somebody ride Tadej off his wheel and the way he attacked there was like the final of Flanders or whatever, or like Worlds or whatever, like obviously Paris finish. I mean, just all in, committing 110%, and you could just see the desire in his eyes, the motivation in his eyes to bring it home. And what a champion he is. And everybody loves Wout. He just has a nice personality and he just seems like a cool guy.
Well,
And
I
yeah,
think people love him so much because they've seen him go through the ups and downs, right? They've seen him like battle a bit with condition. They've seen the press slamming him, the Belgian press going like, "Oh, he's not as good as Eddie Merckx, and he's not like, not consistent enough. Can't win a world title. Always second to Van der Poel." There's so many times when Wout's kind of just been like pushed down a little bit, but he's been this ultimate teammate in so many other ways where he could have won so many other races. So I think that's like the real difference is that he wins people over like that because he's such a good, he's a nice guy, first of all. And then he's also just this killer on the bike who's selfless at times. And yeah, and then he's also been incredibly popular in winning those races like the Giro, like getting ahead in the Giro, like helping Yatesy win that final stage. He's had plenty moments like that. And I mean, when you have moments like that, you can only win bike fans over.
yeah. We saw today, the final week, he really didn't take a lot of time out from Jonas. It's really in the second week that he won the race. At the end of the race, even though he was going for it on that final day, clearly he was tired. And there was even stories in the press saying that he was saying in L'Equipe that he doesn't know if he's going to continue much past the Olympics of 2028, that he's not there just to win, as many Tour de France as possible. He really is looking for a challenge. Like he said, he was most excited about Paris-Roubaix next year as a race. So it seems like he's a rider who's just looking for new challenges and is getting a little bored or stale in a way. Even though obviously at the end of 3 weeks, I think everybody is wants to retire from cycling. I imagine it's when you put your body through that kind of stress and strain, and especially being the yellow jersey, to think about how much pressure is on his shoulders is unbelievable. A whole team, hundreds of people are just around him supporting him to win. But what do you think? Do you think we're going to see a Tadej in his 30s still racing, or do you think it's going to be like, as he says, he's not looking much past the Olympics of 2028?
Ah, I'll say if you're going to get paid 10 million a year to keep going, you probably will, wouldn't he? I don't think, look, it'll come down to a lot of factors. Is he still riding at the level required to win the Tour de France? Is he dominating like he did? But the hard part for him will be as he progresses throughout is that challenge to keep staying on top and winning like this year he won a lot. Last year he won a lot. To keep that like just keep on winning, winning, winning. It's such a huge thing, if you start losing races, maybe you start losing confidence, it becomes harder to win. It's there's a new guy on the block. That moment will come in cycling. There will be a new today. This isn't like we're not never going to see a guy like this again. Maybe not as dominant, but there will be someone that will be able to challenge him. I mean, Jonas is someone who can challenge him on his best day in the mountains, but equally, like Van der Poel can challenge him on the classic days. So there are already those riders that could take him on. But this, you'll never get bored of winning. I think you'll get bored. I think you'll start saying you're getting bored and tired is when you start losing. I think that'll be the difficult part for him. But I can also understand why he's bored. You're sitting on top of mountains for weeks on end. You're away. His girlfriend also races. She's obviously on training camps. It's a huge sacrifice for both of them. I mean, for this sport, to be at that level, you've basically got to just be a monk of cycling. You can't. Yes, he puts out friendly videos of himself enjoying rides with, I don't know, Carlos Sainz and all the F1 drivers, and it's all cool because they live in Monaco. But at the end of the day, the parts like he's at training camp a lot, and he's got people around him a lot, and people asking him like his data every day and eating right, and that's a toll. That's why they can't keep pushing past. That's probably more why he doesn't want to push past 28 from past the Olympics because he's probably like, how long can I sustain this for, man? This is not living, and it
Yeah.
isn't living.
Yeah, it's such a hard lifestyle, and the intensity he brings to every race, to be on, to go for the win, that's also another level of focus and pressure that he puts on himself. So I can imagine that's going to be hard to sustain for a career of many years. Just because he's every race he really does, he shows up to win. He doesn't really start a race as training or to help a teammate. And if you think about the pressure, that's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, he's the highest bike rider, paid bike rider. Of course, he's got the biggest pressure, That always comes, they always come together. The money, the pressure, the organization, the expectations. Yeah, and so I think, yeah, that's why it's not sustainable. I think why he's thinking, well, how long can I keep this going for? But well, if I look at the whole last week of the Tour de France, it was great not to see this domination from the big guys. Like it was not to say that the stage winners weren't big guys, but it was so nice to like have nobody that I picked for any day win. It was all surprises the whole way through. Caden Grove's amazing performance. Like there's an opportunity taken. Get in a breakaway, massive attack. You just that kind of stuff. You just the massive attack. But then he rides he solos to the line, something that's not really his style of winning. Everyone would have thought he would have just waited for the sprint. So another surprise. Then you get Arensman winning again from the breakaway, not from the breakaway, from the lead pack. Just sensing that opportunity, like, you know what? If I attack now, no one's going to follow me. I'm not on that general classification. There's another battle going on behind. And that ability to sense, like, oh, there's a stage win up for grabs here. I should take it. That's amazing. And then who else? Who else can we talk about
Well,
that
we
one?
saw Ben O'Connor. That was a
Yeah,
ride of pure courage, in my opinion. I mean, he was a guy who was dropped by the leaders. He came back and he went on in the valley, got a gap. They were playing cat and mouse, and he wasn't the best or the strongest rider on the day, but he had really the most guts and determination, I feel like. I think to me, what stands out about Ben O'Connor is it's just grit, right? He just keeps fighting no matter what. He's had a lot of struggles in the race, but yet every day he's there trying to win, and that's really impressive. What do you think about his ride there on that day?
that's like his style, right? Like I find every Grand Tour that he's ridden a really good Grand Tour GC, he's always come from behind, right? And he's got in those breakaways and he's won those days, or he's placed second on a stage like he won. He's got that resilience. He's got like he really picks those moments where everyone knows he's lost 15, 20 minutes. Yes, he's a great climber. Sorry, it's my son who's just for those viewers. I'm sure you also got small kids. Um, he he's just got that resilience around him that he can actually really like go go all in on a stage and still be able to recover like the next day and still be able to hang on to where he was. But he's got that like real like hardness in him. Like he'll attack it like you say in a valley where it's like, oh man, it's still like 50K to go. Like where are you gonna go? There's like a 20K climb still coming. Like what? Like no one would think of attacking there, and then he does, and then he's just strong. So it's just and he just manages to pull it off every time. So yeah, I think he's a great rider. I actually went I was doing like a talk at one function last week, and they asked me about Ben O'Connor, and I was like, they were like, oh, he's had like a bit of a bad. So I was like, man, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets in one of these long range attacks and then like creeps up the GC again. And it was literally the next day he won, and I was just thinking, ha, I look like a wizard. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was great for I think Australia. The Australians have had an awesome last week of the Tour de France. That's for sure. I think Oz cycling is just a buzz. People are very proud of the Aussies. Or a lot of the guys when I walked around school pickups or wherever were just like, yeah, you see another Aussie got up yesterday, mate. You know. Um, so yeah, I think a lot of the guys are very chuffed. Yeah, it's a huge moment for all those bike riders. Perry
Yeah.
Poncho was also in that mix, right? That was an awesome stage.
One,
Um,
two. Yeah, that was super exciting. Only French win of the race, and it wasn't a French team, a Belgian team. So yeah, exciting. And then we had Milan, who won a second stage and sealed the green jersey. He's another guy who reminds me of somebody who's also just really strong, robust, resilient. Like he seems a pretty tough sprinter. He's like a big guy, but he's there, in the final week.
yeah, he's got an engine. I mean, of course, he's got an engine. I don't like his style. I don't like his style, if I'm honest. I don't like his, seems like he pushes a little bit too much, for me. I mean, there'll be the pure sprint out there that goes like, what are you talking about? That's sprinting. But um, yeah, I don't know. I didn't rate the Binny story, maybe because I'm African. In the beginning when he just like gave him like a big spray, and I was just like, oh, I don't know. That kind of put me off him. Like he's done nothing wrong to me, but it was just like, I don't know. It was just like, Benny's one of my guys, like from the continent of Africa. And then I just saw him giving him a big wind up, and I was just a bit like, kind of put me off him.
The Italians, they get heated, eh? I mean, racing in Italy, and I remember racing, in Langkawi with a bunch of Italian teams, and they always had a lot to say, when all the time. They don't stop talking, right? Or in an animated way, which comes across as shouting many times for people who are from lower key cultures like we are.
That's when you need Robbie Hunter back in the peloton because he used to not speak.
Yeah, he used to. Yeah, they used to chirp, and then he was like, "Come, let's sort it out."
Let's unclip.
After it. Yeah, let's
Oh, yeah,
unclip.
come.
Robbie, he
It's
wasn't
like those
scared,
guys
eh?
that drive their car and they wind their window down and they shout at you as they're driving past. It's like, no, just stop.
Yeah, no, he meant business. He wasn't going to talk. He was just going to show them, yeah, with a fist or two,
No, we
eh?
just needed some enforcers. No, he never used to fight, but he had that aura around him where people were like, don't piss him off because, like, hey, well, just stop and say, come on, or find me after the finish. Um, so you need a few guys like that to settle the playing field there. That's what cycling lacks is a few little enforcers like those hockey players. They've got a couple of those. What do they call them? Ice angels or whatever they're called, where they just like protect the main star of the show, just body check anyone around them. You need one of those guys, a couple of those guys in cycling.
Yeah, no, you do. Yeah, for sure. I know Hunter. Yeah, we know him well. Yeah, I was teammates with him back in the day at the Commonwealth Games, and yeah, the stories, even how he made it in Italy was pretty interesting. Like I think the Giro di Regione, he was, all the Italians were ganging up on him, and he was still winning the hotspot sprints, and there were like 10, 15 guys trying to block him, and eventually they let him in because he was fighting each one of them, and he was the only non-Italian allowed in the train before the hotspots, I think, because like you said, of his demeanor, of his aura, they knew that he wasn't worth messing with,
So,
and
the
yeah.
people that are listening, Simon has just brought out a real South African term, the hotspot. And so the hotspot is actually the intermediate sprint, but in South Africa we call it the hotspot. It's quite
Yeah.
funny. Oh no, this guy's lining up for the hotspot. I would love to know what the viewers would have thought. Hey, nice. No, you got the hotspot there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, half our audience, I think, is South African by now, so I think they know what we're talking about. What about the Boabas van die Berge? Remember that one?
Who?
The Boabas van die Berge,
Oh, jeez.
the king of the
Where's he
mountains.
at?
The king of the mountains, right? The
Yeah,
reporter.
Bournemouth. Is
The
that what they?
Boabas, yeah. You don't remember that one? Robbie
Oh, it's like
McIntosh?
quite in funny bag.
Yeah. No, the
Oh,
Boabas.
all right. Um,
You have to brush up on your Afrikaans now that you live in Australia. You're losing your.
No, but the funny part was like Jeremy Martin's always told the story because he was at Regione when Hunter was racing there, and they were like South African national team. I think I don't know if they were riding together, or if Rob was riding for his team, but Jeremy said he had a camera in his pocket, like one of those little like what do you call them, disposable cameras. While he was like in the line, he was taking photos of just like being at the back of the peloton, like memories. It's so funny. Like it was just like I was like, no way, you didn't have a camera in your pocket. He's like, yeah, I did. Just shows you the mentality like South Africans and other people like went over with. They knew we're probably going to get a beating. Yeah, this is just an opportunity to race in Europe and like, see, I know I'm going to be at the back and just have a bit of fun at the same time. Like, that wouldn't fly these days. The people are so serious. Riders are so serious. You
Yeah.
kind of get probably kicked out of the race by your own team if you did that. Uh,
Yeah. No, it's funny. So let's talk a little bit about, with UAE, it seems like if you look at their roster, half the potential competition for today in a Grand Tour it's on their team, in UAE. If you think about it, you got Almeida, you've got Ayuso, and they don't get to race the tour to win GC because of today. Do you think You think if we saw those guys in the mix, you think in other teams, you think we would see a different race if we had a greater depth in the top five? Because this year the time gaps were massive in between, first and even third, fourth, fifth was I think 10th was over an hour behind. If we had a guy like Almeida on another team, he might be challenging for a top 2, 3 position
Oh,
in
yeah, look,
another.
I mean,
Yeah.
for sure. Like, how do you control winning the Tour de France? You just buy all your contenders and go, right, it just work for me. You destroy the field. It's like a lead out uphill. We've got the best rider. Yeah, and that's why they want to bring in the whole like salary caps and the budget restrictions on certain things because it gets too top heavy. Ineos used to do the same when they were Team Sky. They had Wiggins and they had Froome, Geraint Thomas, Edvald Bosenhagen. They had like all the good riders, Mick Rogers. Like those guys could ride their own kind of GC in a way, the Tour de France. So it's not uncommon. It's not like UAE is the first team to come up with this. Postal as well, all those other bigger teams, they also used to have like Lanced by like Ribiera and all the threats, right? Get them onto one team that you just have this power squad that nobody can ride away from. So it's not an uncommon theme. Um, but yeah, it certainly would make cycling a lot more interesting if you had like a few guys from UAE, a few guys from Ineos, a few guys in different teams. Like we'd have this option to race, like broaden the race a little bit, and throw something out there. But yeah, I know that there's plenty of guys that are in today's team that go, well, look, I get paid to be a GC Grand Tour contender. I've just got to work. My finish line's where I want it to be. I don't have the pressure of that hanging on my shoulders every day. All I need to do is make sure I'm there on the climb, which is pretty easy for the climbers if you can climb. And, do like a lead out until I get tired and then today just goes bang. Look, that's a great position to be in if you're those guys. You go, yeah, I've got to do all the training, everything around it, but I do have the pressure. Not that kind of pressure. When you go into another team and you don't have a leader like today and you're expected to go toe to toe with him, there's a different expectation where you're still getting paid the same salary and now you have to deliver, like a Remco. Like the pressure with Remco versus Almeida is huge. Like, could you
Yeah.
get Remco in today's team and just go chuck him in there and he'd still get paid the same? Just go, but Remco wants to win. It's a different mentality. Like Remco's
Yeah.
a champion, whereas Almeida, he'll take his chances here and there. But Remco wants to be the big show. And
Yeah.
that's great to have ambition like that.
Yeah. We had a question about Remco from one of the listeners. If you think he's a legit Tour de France contender, in my opinion, right now, I don't think he's a contender yet for the top spot. Obviously, he is for the podium, but I think he's still missing something. He always seems to have 1 or 2 bad days in these longer races, and he seems an incredible time trialist, but not as good a climber as a Tadej, which is obviously everybody else in the peloton. But even a Jonas, like he seems to be a little bit lacking in the big mountains. That doesn't mean that in a few years he can't become a tour contender. And the rumors are that he is going to go to Bora. It looks like it's going to be announced any day. From August 1st is when they are able to announce all the new changes. What do you think about that question we had about is Remco a legit Tour de France contender?
Oh, well, I mean, he is contender for sure. I mean, it would take a today to be off his game, I think, for all of them. Um, I think that's the underpinning thing, unless they all catch up to him. But at this moment, at this point, I can say like as long as today is going to be on that start line with the team he has, very difficult to beat. Do I believe that he's won the Vuelta, so he's a Grand Tour contender. He's already shown us he's a Grand Tour contender. I mean, that's for sure. The Tour de France is a different beast, but yeah, I think can he get there? He can. He probably just needs to find out how he's got to get there. But yeah, the way I see it going right now with today and the way he's racing is be very hard for the next 2, 3 years for someone to say they're going to be a Tour de France winner.
Yeah. And another question we had, people were asking, why you're not at the Tour? You at the Giro? I know you're going to the Vuelta working with Israel. How come you're not at the Tour de France?
Yeah, so we split it up. I think in our team we got like 8 or 10 directors. So we get given different races to go to. Like I did the Giro, with Sam and Pat, and then so Sam still went to the Tour de France with Steve Bauer. So we split it up a little bit, and I'm heading up the Vuelta. So to go and do the Tour de France and then the Vuelta. It's just to prepare and stuff and get ready for the Vuelta. You need enough time to go through the stages, come up with ideas. Do some planning. The Tour de France is hugely taxing on the whole organization. So we'll have fresh staff, fresh DSs that come into the Volta. And then those DSs will do other smaller races for the rest of the year. Tour of Britain. Not so those are smaller races, but smaller in the terms of like length of the 3 weeks races. And then they'll go to the fun races too, Canada, and do all the good stuff.
Yeah, and a side note, I'll also be at the Vuelta. I'll be running a bike tour with Gourmet Cycling Travel. So we actually
You're
do
gonna
have,
come say how's it to us or what?
yeah, of course, like we did back in the old days in the Tour de France. Every mountain, every one stage of every tour, I think I brought a group to meet Daryl, either on the rest day or at the start. I have photos from throughout the years of us meeting up there with our group, which was really cool and really fun. So this time you won't be a rider, you'll be a director, but it'll be fun to see you there. We'll be at 4 of the final stages of the Vuelta. We're working with an official tour operator, so we have some passes as well to 4 stages, VIP passes. So if anybody is interested, we still have 2 spots available there. Come hang out. Maybe Daryl, you can join us on the final day. There's an incredible VIP section on the final day in the center. I don't know if you remember that in Madrid, right in the center, right on the finish line, with like food and drink all afternoon going into the evening. You might be in a car still at that point.
I'll be in the car doing slaps, mate.
Yeah, but maybe you can
I
step
don't know
out
if you
for 2
realize,
hours.
Simon, I actually work.
But that'll be the end, man. You got to step out and have a drink afterwards. You'll be done by 6. You can come hang out.
Oh, for sure.
Cool. So we're going to wrap it up. Just let's talk a little bit about. We have the Women's Tour de France. We saw another yellow jersey for Africa. Kim Lacourt. She doesn't have it anymore, but she did take the yellow jersey on stage 2, and she got very close to being a stage win on stage 1, where she was second behind Mariana Vos. So that was an incredible performance for an African rider from Mauritius. What do you have to say, Daryl?
Oh man, it's cool. It's so big. I think, it's unfortunate she lost it from that crash. I mean, she didn't lose it from the crash, but she was impeded by it, right? The stage, that big, massive crash was caught behind it. But I think just to have that jersey for a day for Africa, for her, for women's cycling, it's huge. The impact it has is so big because there's so many African women that are racing, either in Europe or wishing to go to Europe, and then they see that they go oh man, that's one of us up there. Everyone knows that it's not a big thing. Cycling's not huge in Mauritius, say for example. How did she get there? It just takes that excuse out of it. But we come from Africa. It's we're not exposed to that kind of stuff. It's well, she forged a path. She found her way, and that's what gives hope to everybody. I think that's the real good stuff behind those big iconic jerseys and being able to do it. Like I said, when Robbie won the stage in the tour, it resonated with me because I was even though I knew he was streaks ahead of me, but I was just man, he comes from Krugersdorp. Do you know what I mean? And I know where Krugersdorp is. I trained there. Do you get what I'm saying? Then you kind of go man, he came from these same roads. He did these same things, and he's done it. And it's going to be the same for Kim. She's going to be she's not going to realize it now while she's riding the Tour de France because she's obviously focused on, trying to do well there. But the impact it will have going to when she goes to the African Continental Champs or things like that, or maybe the Worlds in Rwanda. That's when she's going to see the impact there because there'll be so many African women, African riders, even men, from it's just hugely inspiring for everybody. So it just gives everybody a reason to believe that it's possible.
Yeah, it's very inspiring. It's that did remind me of Robbie Hunter because he really did it on his own. He didn't have any support. He went there on his own. Didn't have much money, and it was a kind of a similar story, like you said. So yeah, very inspiring. I think we're going to wrap it up. Any last words, Daryl, before we end the podcast?
Well, who do you think's going to win the ladies Tour de Femme avec Swift?
Well, Demi Vollering looks like she had a bad crash yesterday, but today, thankfully, she got through okay, and she says she has some neck pain, but overall, she's doing all right. So I think, she's definitely the favorite still, but I do have a soft spot for Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, who's just an incredible athlete coming from mountain bike. She almost won the first stage, like leading it out up the climb. I'd love to see her win. And also Cassia Nuviadomo Finney, who I see training often in Boulder, who's married to Taylor Finney. She's also a favorite, I think, of mine as well. Just seeing her all the time training and also hanging out with Taylor a few times, that feels close to home. So yeah, there's a lot of exciting riders there. How about you?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Obviously, seeing Longo Borghini out of the race is a bit of a hit for the race. I mean, she posted something the other day like, I don't know what I need to do at this race just to like get a bit of a break. Yeah, I think for her, you got to feel for her too because this is their biggest goal of the season, and it's even the men's biggest goal of the season. So to miss out and not to continue the race is probably would have been nice to see her up in that battle. But yeah, I think you've got the nail on the head. It's pretty much like the men's racing, right? It's probably less predictable, but you can say between those three women you mentioned, it's probably going to be highly possible that could be your podium.
Yeah, cool. Please subscribe, rate us, give us a 5-star review if you're enjoying the podcast. And remember, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on YouTube. Help us spread the word. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.